like a cat, it was a present from my brother. I read a lot of books, but I couldn't see between the lines.
And just like that, we're live.
Just like that, we're live. And Chicago Lou joining us off the top of the show.
Chicago Lou right out of the gate. I think he's got more important things to do today.
I said some
Well,
stuff
he has to
today.
make a living, and that's a terrible thing that's been thrust upon him, that he has actual bills to pay and a job that demands his time. But
Well, like Tom Jackson one time said, you can't do fun things without the work thing, So,
Tom Jackson said that?
Yeah, Tom Jackson, the excellent
yeah,
guy.
I hadn't spent enough time with me at that point.
He has not spent enough time with you, obviously.
But yes, but I was showing off my Marty Feldman action figure.
Oh, nice, very nice.
Right. You
I
can
love
find
the
him at Target.
eyes.
Yeah, but like you said, the best part about this, it's movie accurate, where the hump is adjustable. Look at that. Is it to his right?
Well,
To his left?
well, hump. Well, hump.
What hump? What
He's
hump?
he's gonna be a popular guy. Oh, dude, he has like some of the best
You
lines
know,
in the
I'm
whole
quite a
movie.
brilliant surgeon. I could help you with that hump. Well, hump.
What hump? That's funny.
Wasn't it
Werewolf.
on the other?
Their
no.
wolf. Their castle. It's on Hulu right now. If people had never seen Young Frankenstein, Mel Brooks is a genius. You must see that movie.
Yeah.
You know what? You know who gets more
People that
credit for that is was that?
Even for the people that.
I think he broke up a little bit.
Yeah,
Oh,
Bob broke up. Yeah.
None of them.
No. What's it called? Young Frankenstein is more to Gene Hackman's credit. I'm not Gene Hackman. Gene Wilder's credit.
Yeah.
He's the one that proposed it to Mel Brooks. Now, if you notice one thing about the movie, Gene Hackman did this. They did this after Blazing Saddles.
Wilder.
Yeah, Gene Wilder. I keep on saying you're right. Sorry, Gene Wilder. That's my number 2. So Gene Wilder went into Mel Brooks and said we should do this, and Mel Brooks goes, "Cool." Gene Wilder goes, "But guess what? The only thing is, you can't be in the movie because if you ever notice, Mel Brooks is in every one of his movies,
Yeah.
right? And they didn't even notice he doesn't show up in Young Frankenstein at all.
No.
If anything, they have a cat sound in the movie. Mel Brooks is notorious for making a cat sound, whatever he does. He always does it all the time, and he'll throw it into his movies sometimes. So it's on Hulu. If you guys have not seen Young Frankenstein yet, shame on you if you haven't.
Well, Wilder also did Sherlock Holmes' younger brother, or smarter brother. I don't know if you saw that, but he plays Sigerson Holmes, who is Sherlock Holmes' younger brother, who's incredibly jealous of Sherlock. We'll only refer to him as Sheer Luck Holmes. And Marty Feldman plays his assistant, who has a phonographic memory. If you hit him in the head, he can repeat anything he's heard. And
That's awesome.
Madeline Kahn is the client who can only tell the truth. She's a habitual liar who can only tell the truth when she's being sexually aroused. So he has, like, he's just calmly having
Like
tea, and
most
he asks
people.
and he asks a question about the case, and she lies, and he goes, and just like still having tea, he reaches out and put his hand on her breast, and he goes, and he asks the same question, and she tells the truth. It's just stupid, but it's fun.
is that a Mel Brooks movie?
No, it's a Gene Wilder directed movie.
Gotcha.
Right.
And then another great Gene Wilder film that had that same, he was on a run there. It's his movie with Harrison Ford, the San Francisco Kid, or the Frisco Kid.
Right.
And if you haven't seen that, it's a great movie because Harrison Ford, typical bandit in the West, and Gene Wilder is a Jewish rabbi from Poland who's been sent to this old town in the West, and he's innocent and he loves humanity, and of course he's robbed of everything along the way and thrown off the train, and he meets Harrison Ford, who's on the run, and he agrees to get him so far, and of course it's just hilarity ensues, and one night they're always fighting, and it's just this great line I use constantly when I want to guilt a friend. Harrison Ford's like, okay, in the morning, you just go that way, and you're on your own. Go on this way. And he goes, all right then. He's going to bed. And thanks for everything you did for me. Right up until the time I needed you the most.
Right. Nice. So Gene Wilder, look at that. You guys remember like History of the World and stuff like that?
Oh, of course, yeah. Those are the big ones,
Right.
but like he made some really great movies that didn't explode like that.
I mean, Blazing Saddles,
Yeah.
would that be his biggest one, I guess? Blazing Saddles.
Well,
I
that's
don't
the
know.
most
Yeah.
notorious,
And
but
what
what he
about
said was,
Silver Streak?
Silver Streak, that was Mel Brooks or Gene Wilder?
No, I thought you were talking Gene Wilder.
No, I was still talking Mel Brooks. That's what History of the World. That's why I was
well,
kind
yeah,
of.
actually,
Yeah.
I'm supposed to be in a cosplay group for History of the World, actually. Somebody already
mean,
took
yeah.
Dom DeLuise's part, so I get to be Moses. So I had to come
Oh,
up
dude,
with
you'd have
those.
been great as Deloise, right?
I know, but a guy beat me to it. A guy beat me to it.
Man.
So I had to be the Moses holding the three, the three tablets.
Yes.
And this year, your 10 commandments. So I'm
Right.
kind of a tablet that I'm trying to and at whatever convention I could drop it and just put it back together again. That's been
Nice.
been my
Nice.
thing. So,
Yeah, that'd be awesome, right? Here's your 15-year
Yes.
Velcro kind of thing.
Okay, we're talking Mel Brooks. We're supposed to be talking superheroes. And I'm going to tell you, Luis, that I tried
Yes.
WandaVision a fourth time. I still haven't made it through the fourth episode. I'm still working on the fourth episode. It's been 2 weeks of trying to just get through the fourth. It's agonizing.
It's only
And
a 30-minute episode. How could it be that hard to get
Right.
through?
The long, the first, especially 1, 2, and 3. If I hadn't been playing chess during those episodes, I could have never made it through. There's a few
Well,
details
listen.
about the blip and about people coming back, so you have to start paying attention. But it's still the same agonizingly slow pace with obvious beat me over the head sitcom things. And why are you doing this to me? It's a superhero thing. Why are you doing this to me? And then I tried to watch your other thing on Netflix about the
Oh, Jupiter's Legacy?
yeah, and
Not so
I
much.
don't know. I'm going to try it again, but I don't know about that one. But The Mandalorian. Now that's the shit, man.
wait, time out, Paul. Before you get into Mandalorian, all I have to say, with all due respect and love, you've been married 3 times. I figured you had a high threshold for pain. All right, so you should be able to truck through one.
Well, my second marriage alone, would have prepared me for massive amounts of pain and self-abuse. And so I feel like that was preparation for Wanda. It was too much. It was
Listen, I sent you that 9-minute summation of WandaVision. Just watch that.
yeah, I don't want to cheat. I don't want to. Oh, Mikey disappeared. I
I'm
don't wanna
still here.
cheat.
I don't know what's going on.
I don't want to cheat. I'm going to get through the whole thing. But now that I'm watching something I actually enjoy, it's
Okay.
a little difficult to go back and give 30 minutes to Wanda when The Mandalorian freaking rocks.
Right.
Yeah,
From the
Mandalorian's
first-
good.
You know what The Mandalorian does? It returns to the original, the very first Star Wars with Mark Hamill. The idea that it's really just an old Western that takes place in outer space. So they're doing the spaghetti Western with Clint Eastwood. He's even talking like Clint.
Right.
And man, I sure wish, you told me it was a different actor, but I wish it was Clint Eastwood's son under that hood, man. That would be a great reveal one day, that it was really Clint Eastwood's son that was playing the Mandalorian. Because it's great. And then, I'm really digging the Mandalorian anyway. We throw in Baby Yoda. Oh my goodness.
The Baby Yoda,
Yeah.
right? Right out of the gate.
There is no stronger drug than nostalgia.
Yes. Yes. And, it's funny because there's a lot of talk about the behind-the-scenes stuff at Lucasfilm and the warring factions at Lucasfilm and how Johnny Favs, has his vision of what Star Wars should be versus Kathleen Kennedy's version of what it should be. Hers is the movies. And there's a lot of internal stuff going on at Disney to try to figure out the direction because those two are in complete disagreement about the direction. Obviously, you agree with Johnny Favs.
Well, who was doing the movies?
Kathleen Kennedy was in charge of the movies.
Right.
Okay, so there's some really brilliant stuff there, but there's an awful lot of stuff you got to slog through. Now, I will say this. I did watch the final Star Wars movie, and I thought it was fun since the first 3.
See, I thought that, to me, there was no tension because every time they would raise a situation with tension, it would immediately be solved. And so to me, it was like, all right, so we have this giant worm. What's going to happen? Like normally a movie would cut away from that and come back later for you to figure it out. But they just solve it right there. Oh, Chewie's dead. Oh,
That's
no,
a
he's not. There he is. He's fine. It just,
I don't know. That's how it might have been done in the 70s. But now the kids' attention spans, last about as quick as they can scroll.
nah,
So you gotta just give
whatever.
them
No other good movies do that. They were. It was.
When
I think it was
saw
Bob
Name
Iger.
at the end, I saw J.J. Abrams at the end, and that was like, okay, now I know why it was good. Bang. That's all I'm saying.
That's all you're saying.
And she's Rey Skywalker at the end.
So,
She's
has anybody
Sky-
seen Mythic Quest? We got somebody here asking about Mythic Quest. Have you seen it,
I
Louis?
have not seen Mythic Quest, no. Now I'm going to have to look it up. I'll do my homework on it.
Anyway, The Mandalorian rocks, and I'm only about halfway through it.
Yes, about David Filoni. You're right about David Filoni. But I don't think he's
Who's that?
made creative director yet. That's this comment right here. I don't think he's in charge yet.
Well, he does a lot of the cartoons.
Well, right, but he's been working with Johnny Favs on these Mandalorian.
Right, but that's what I'm saying is when I told you guys to check out the cartoons, you guys are like, cartoons, forget cartoons. I'm like, I won't even bring up the cartoons.
I started watching Clone Wars. I started watching it. I'm season 3.
I was watching Bad Batch last night, and I'm not gonna give any more, but one of the characters that shows up in Mandalorian showed up in the Bad Batch. I went, oh, that's so cool, and he was even the same actor.
Oh wow!
She voiced herself in the cartoon. I was like,
was it Sackhoff or?
Yeah, the bounty hunter, the
Katie
the girl,
Sackhoff.
No, not Katie. I forgot the character. The girl who was in
the Asian girl. Then the Asian.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Asian lady, yes. Mm-hmm. So she did it both, and I was impressed. I was in shock, and I had like 1,000 other questions for my real, diehard Star Wars fans. Like, how can she be so old, right? Because you got to remember, Mandalorian takes place right after Return of the Jedi, right?
Oh,
so
interesting.
Right.
That's about the time it takes place. It takes place right after Return of the Jedi, right? With the fall of the Empire. Yeah.
No, because Yoda wouldn't have been a baby.
Well,
See,
thanks
that's
for
not Yoda,
that bit of information there. He just said that Dave Filoni's actually been in charge for a while. They just updated their website, and folks are freaking out. So.
Oh yeah.
You've heard of that, Luis?
Yeah. I've heard about. I mean, I heard that recently that there's trouble. Like you said, there's a lot of internal civil war happening there.
Right.
But yeah, no. So Paul, that's not actual Yoda, right? Yoda's dead. Yoda.
Then I'm going to tune out. I bet I was in for Yoda.
No, Yoda. Well, see, that's what everybody's calling him the child, right? Disney wanted you to call him the child.
Right.
But everybody started calling him Baby Yoda, so Disney said, okay, for now, you guys can call him Baby Yoda. But
we still don't know. He could be a clone. They still haven't said.
Well, they haven't said.
Straight up, if it's not Yoda, let me know now, and I'm tuning out.
Oh, it's not. It's not Yoda.
I feel hoodwinked. I feel totally hoodwinked.
Why? Because he's from the same race. That's all. He's just the same race as Yoda.
What they're saying that race is very rare because Yoda died like a 900-year-old man,
right?
And Baby was supposed to be like about 50,
right?
Right.
That's why it's still a baby because it's 50 years old. But in human years, that's like what 10 years old, 5 years old, or
two of those creatures mating.
What's that? Yes, I know, right? How do you get a Yoda to do a Yoda?
I kind of wanted to think of Yoda as a virgin birth, a singular entity in the universe.
Well, exactly right. So maybe he is. Maybe this is the next after Yoda died, another thing happens.
So, Baby Yoda,
but actually, no. Baby Yoda was around and being trained. They eventually you find out that he was around and being trained during. Yoda knew about Baby Yoda,
right?
Apparently,
right.
You find that out by season 2. But I don't want to tell you too much because it's still a great story.
2? Is it season 2?
Yes.
Nice.
Yes. And season 2 is even more fun.
I was enjoying it so much, I was starting to slow down my consumption of it. I didn't want to watch more than 2 in a row because I didn't want to get through the season 2 quickly. But there's a season 2.
Yes,
you can binge it.
I've never actually given Paul an actual birthday gift, but I think this Disney Plus thing is like
it's been the best gift.
The sad
thing is,
it's the best gift you ever gave me. It's unbelievable how much time I spend on this now. Allison's like, why do you watch so many movies on your laptop now? I'm like, that's where it is. That's how I know how to.
The poor white mountain part. I was like, just get away. Get away.
Right.
You're in the way. That's Baby Yoda.
Movies. You really could care less about action. I've tried to get her to watch an action movie, and 10 minutes in, she just went, "Oh no, this is for my son Brian." And just,
oh wow.
I know. My wife hasn't watched a movie like that with me in ages. And I can't even talk to her about it because she just looks at me like, yeah, nice. That's nice. And
Yeah,
then they
same
did
here.
nice. I'm
My
glad
I
you.
get
mom
the same
knew-
reaction. I get the same
my
reaction
mom
for
knew-
superheroes at football. You know, I start talking about Saints, and she just kind of smiles and nods for a bit, and really doesn't care. When we first got back together after having seen each other in 36 years, she saw my enthusiasm for football as the season came. So she's trying to, take part, even though she knows nothing about sports. And she's sort of walking by the screen as I'm, ranting, and she goes, "So, do you think Drew's going to throw a lot of home runs this year?" And I looked up and I smiled and I said, "No, no, baby. Unfortunately, it doesn't look good for him throwing a lot of home runs this year."
Right. Because you like.
You don't think she was picking on you? It sounded like she was picking on you, dude.
No, she really didn't know. And it's a story I love telling her sisters now because she gets embarrassed every time.
She's like, you like that sports ball thing, right? You watch sports ball.
Could be the
Like
same
my
thing,
mom,
Carlson.
my mom learned Wolverine and Homer from me, right? So
Wow.
so I watched Wolverine, and my mom would just pass by. She goes, "That's your favorite, right?" Yeah. So then there's this one movie where he's fighting Sabretooth, whose real name is Victor Creed. So, but my mom said it was not Victor, it was Victor. So she always remember, "Where está Victor?" So my mom became a Sabretooth fan because she was able to remember his name. And I'm like, you know what? This is just going south so bad. I just, never mind. Yeah, I just go do what you're doing. Don't watch the movie with me. You're gonna hurt my ears after a while. It's not gonna happen. So, and then
Yes.
Homer was Homero since you had Simpson cartoon. So I'm over watching Simpsons, and my mom goes, "Es tu favorito?" Shit. All right. She knows too much of my pop culture. And here's the best one. My mom goes, Luis, I loved comic books as a kid. I'm like, really? She goes, I used to try to hide them. She goes, my grandparents would find, because my mom's mom died my mom was 4 years old. So she was raised by her grandparents. So she goes, I would have comic books. I would try hiding them under the bed and everything. They'd find them and I get, in trouble for them. So I'm like, all right, my mom was a comic book person. Now I know where I got it from, right? But so yeah, so she had that some kind of appreciation for it, which I never knew until, she and I just started sharing more space together,
Cool.
And back in those days, the comics were more like pulp, right? I mean, when she would have been watching, they weren't. It wasn't for kids necessarily. It was more, and that's why she'd get in trouble for it because it was more adult oriented.
She was.
stuff.
She loved the Lone Ranger. She
Wow,
loved the Lone
okay.
Ranger. I was like, shit, mom, what the? I'm like, you're in Mexico and you love the white guy wearing the mask. I don't know, mom. Wow. Mine was blown. Guys. Mine was blown. I was just like, ooh, okay, let's go Lone Ranger. We won't get into the whole Tonto thing, mom, but Lone Ranger, we're good. It's crazy.
Sometimes that's why it's fun to watch some of the when they do those reaction things to different things. Like, what was it? I just saw like reactions to Blazing Saddle and stuff like that. It was making the rounds on YouTube or whatever. So a bunch of people are watching it for the first time. These young people had never seen it before, and it didn't matter. All kinds of races. They're all laughing their asses off. So
Did they?
yes, and it's funny when you find people who are sensitive for other people. You never know who the real people are going to be. Like, yeah, sure, some people are going to be sensitive about things, but
It's comedy.
it's comedy, right?
It's okay. It's okay to be funny. It's not okay to beat somebody up in the street. That should be a clear distinction.
Right. I know. I don't know. I don't understand it sometimes, but anyway, it's fun to watch these reactions though, because they're all like laughing their asses off. They think it's hilarious because it's fart jokes. Who doesn't laugh at fart jokes?
Wait. You gotta
So
go?
real quick, I had like a high school buddy who stayed with me 4 years ago. I hadn't seen him in 20 years, and he's staying at my house and trying to figure out what to watch. I'm like, you know what, you'll love Blazing Saddles. All right, so I put on Blazing Saddles for him, and the first time they say the N-word, his initial response was, "Jesus Christ." Oh, wait a second, man. That's commandment number 2 in my book, right? You're gonna burn in hell for saying that. So I said, hey, man, I appreciate you don't like them using the N-word, but please don't respond with Jesus Christ. And we went to seminary school, and he goes, you know what, Luis, I no longer believe in that. That no longer pertains to me. And I'm like, well, it pertains in this house. Okay, you see the picture up of Christ up here, man. come on, don't give me that. So it was so funny where N-word's not okay, using the Lord's name in vain, perfectly fine. And I was going, wow, man, this is like commandment number 2 in my book. So call me Catholic, call me whatever, but that's how I grew up, So I would just love it. And then he couldn't get through the movie. It was just too much for him. He
Right.
stopped at about 20 minutes in. It was just he couldn't handle it.
Right.
So
Well, I'm going to quote the great Robert Plant here and say, does anyone remember laughter?
Right. Right.
I sure.
And
okay,
I honestly, I
gotta-
think intention plays
gotta
into.
go.
Yep, you got to go.
yes,
We'll leave you with
I'll
that
see guys.
controversial stuff. See you later.
I make this promise
Good luck.
to you, Louis. Next Friday, I will have gotten through Wanda.
I think he's gone already. That's a big look at that laugh, though. I got to leave that up there for a second. Look at that smile. What a great shot. All right, let's get off of that. So, I do like the thing behind you. That's pretty, man. You look nice.
That's
Are
my
you rock
fire-
climbing? Where are you at? You in Colorado? What are you doing today?
in front of my fireplace because it's the only place. It's really kind of odd weather in New Orleans today, and it's the only place I could get enough light.
Yeah, it's dark today.
I'm not understanding the lighting concept, obviously, because in the pre-show, I had like every lamp in the place on me, and every time I put another light on me, I got darker. I don't know from. And so I moved to another spot, and there was another disaster, and then there's some sun shining in through an upper window here, and I just thought, well, I'll just sit on the fireplace and.
Oh, so
the
you're
stones
sitting
are
on the
nice.
fireplace? I'm sorry.
I'm sitting on the ledge of the fireplace, right?
Ouch.
Because that's where light is.
Ouch.
We were already 9 minutes late for the show.
Chasing the light.
Running around the living room looking for light. Luis was he only had a half hour to give us, and we bit into 6 minutes of it with me running around the living room looking for a place that had light. So I settled for this. Anyway,
Yes, you look like you're spelunking. I agree, Shmoo.
well, I can promise you that I have never and will never spelunk.
It's such a bad word, spelunking. I mean, it doesn't sound like
Allison
what it
has
is.
a niece who does that stuff. She does spelunking. Her niece, Grace Williams, her sister's daughter. And I mean, like she's young, 20-something, going into caves where she has to like send her pack in ahead of her on a rope because it's too much to fit.
Wow.
No. And climbing rocks and the whole deal. She's so much tougher than I ever was at 20 and would ever have been in my life. Impressive young woman.
I saw this thing, and I know Lord of the Rings isn't your thing, but in that movie, there's a spot where there's a place where one of the characters is like caught up in a web, right? The big spider catches him, and anyway, when they filmed that thing, he had to stay in this polyurethane thing for like 14 hours during the shoot that day, and
Well,
couldn't take
we
it off.
talked we talked with Michael Servers about the movie he shot in New Orleans. His very first experience in New Orleans was Cirque du Freak, the vampire thing.
Right.
That was finally.
Interview with a Vampire?
No. It was the one with John C. Reilly a couple
right.
years ago.
Right. Cirque du Freak.
And Cirque du Freak, that was the name of it. And he played Mr. Tiny, who was 500 pounds. So he had to wear a 500-pound, synthetic fat suit in August in New Orleans.
Right.
And it was so brutal. Of course, we both know, you're laughing, so brutally hot in August in New Orleans, they had to install like a fan system or something inside the suit for him to not die, essentially.
Right. But imagine not being able to move. For your arms and everything are just like, you're wrapped up. You can't even do your nose. How do you go to the bathroom in that situation, right? I mean, I guess they must have installed something for him to be able to go while he was in the suit, is my only guess.
You see, that moment would never occur for an actor from New Orleans because generations of Mardi Gras training will have prepared you to ask that question early on in the costume making process. This is a fantastic costume. How will I urinate and defecate? I've been there on Mardi Gras. And those are two things that come up in a long day.
It's like, I don't see any bathrooms. I'm on the streets of New Orleans. That's right. There is no place to go to the restroom. That's why people generally go to people's houses, right, and hang out, and so they have a bathroom. I mean, it's the main.
By the way, we're on the cutting edge with this thing. We thought we were just doing this thing, like we're too lazy to blog, or too non, in my case, to blog. So you come up with this, let's just do a talk show on your YouTube channel. Well, then I'm watching the final episode of Broadchurch, and the older woman who's been running the town newspaper forever, is now being bought out by the conglomerate who wants to write stupid shit. So she's like, I'm quit. I'm out of here, pedal. I'm going to go and vlog. Not blog, vlog. See, what we're doing here is vlogging, Mike.
I
We are
see.
part of a whole new wave. We're not old guys refusing to take part in the podcast universe. We are the vloggers. We are the next universe of communicators.
And even funnier than that, we're stumbling our way through it.
And by
slowly-
the time the rest of the world catches on, we're going to have it down. Bang, bang, bang. We're going to be like, it's going to be unbelievable.
You know, I think once we have it down, people are going to get bored with it. I think they enjoy coming to watch us fumble around and try to figure out how to work your camera in the mornings. And, you know,
I can't ever see me getting any better at that kind of stuff. You know, there's a great story about John Lennon. I think Chris was just talking about how non-technical Alan Toussaint was in real life, you know.
right.
And that was just, his mind worked in a different way. And Lennon, similar. He was a wonderful artist. He's famous for not knowing how shit works. And there was a guy I forget who told the story, but he's like, he went to visit John, and John went to play him the new Revolution that the Beatles had just cut. You know, it's going to be a single, you know, put it on for you. So he said, Lennon walks up to the turntable, and he goes, I already know John doesn't know how to turn a turntable on. And he puts the record on, and then he puts the needle on, and then he just walks back staring at it, waiting for the turntable to start turning. You know? He goes, I had to tell him, John, you have to turn it on, you know? So it's the same thing for me. As people ask, wow, you guys are doing great with them. I'm like, Mikey's doing everything. I show up with a cup of coffee and say shit. And that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
So my technical end of it's never going to improve.
Yes. What are you going to do, right? We are who we are. And when we
I am, it's all that I am.
I am what I am's. You know, I bet you could do this. Funny thing is you probably could figure out how to. I mean, you got this part of it. You could figure it out. It's pressing one other button.
Well, okay, I will say this. I can indeed figure it out. But like when I got GarageBand, and Shamar, God bless him, he makes his own stuff, you know, like when he makes a new record, he'll bring it to me and say, okay, Uncle Paul did drums on 4 tracks, real drums. The rest is me in the studio. Tell me which ones. And I never can. He's really good. So he tried to show me, you know, here's what you do. But it's like a whole nother language. I mean, you're spending your time doing stuff that you like doing and Shamar likes doing, like people with producer mind like doing. I want to make music,
Right.
you know?
Right.
If somebody wants to push the buttons and make sure the bass part I'm playing is coming into the machine, and the guitar part and the piano part, I'll play everything. I'll do all the stuff that Shamar will do. I don't want to push a single button because something bad's going to happen if I push that button.
You know, you're right, because I'm playing with some new softwares right now, and I'm just doing the whole, well, let's see if you push this button. Let's see if you push this button. I can't tell you how many times I've pushed the
Jurassic
button.
Park. You know, in Jurassic Park, the open where he goes to touch the screen and it just goes haywire,
Right.
and she jokes, you know, it's him and electricity. It just something happens. It's not good. That's me, man. You know,
You're like, I tried to turn the light on, and I don't know, it worked for the other guy, but for me,
I had a ghost. I had a ghost when I lived in the French Quarter. I had a French Quarter place on Burgundy and Esplanade, and it was a slave quarter apartment, as we call them here in New Orleans. It's 3rd floor, and a brick wall like what's behind you, but this was real, and a long staircase that wound up the brick wall to a little loft bedroom, that slanted ceiling you had a duct to get into.
I remember that
Very
one, yeah.
picturesque. When you're in your 20s, very picturesque to have a place like that in the Quarter. And I was driving a truck for a living, so I could afford the place. And I fell asleep one night and we had a ghost. She would turn the dishwasher on when we were watching TV, the lights in the kitchen on and off when we were watching TV. Just the kitchen was kind of her place, or else she just didn't like us watching TV. And I fell asleep one night watching TV, and my first ex had gone up to bed already. And I woke up, and the TV was still on, and I saw this beautiful woman, but luminescent, not any color, just sort of, you know, silvery figure. And she had on bedclothes and long hair, and her hand was like sort of delicately going up the banister as she walked. And she turned when she got to the top, and she looked down at me, and then she just turned and walked into the brick wall and disappeared. And
Wow.
I shot up out of that bed like you wouldn't believe, out of the sofa like you wouldn't believe, and like sort of ran up there to go, wow, that was something. So
So
yeah, I
did she
believe in
turn
that.
into a song?
I never did use her in a song, to be honest.
I'm just curious if somehow.
I'll have to search my songs and see if she did make one. Because why wouldn't you put a beautiful ghost lady in a song? If I get my voice back, I'll write the ghost lady song. I'll do it in the crooner style so that you and Chris Finney can produce the
There you
crooner record we're
go.
gonna
Because immediately
like.
I was thinking, is she stars remind me of you? I don't know. I suddenly started
No, 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 no,
know
no. I
somebody
never
else.
did. That's yeah, yeah,
So you'll have to, yes, you're gonna have to get her into a song. Our fair lady.
yeah. Well, that's too close to my fair lady, you know.
Yeah, no, no, I get it. I was just thinking though, she sounded very fair and very beautiful and very,
Silver
silver. Yeah, it's the silver
was.
lake. So, what are
Anyway,
you doing this weekend, boss? What's the weekend looking like for you?
I have all this anxiety to be completely honest because now I've seen a neurologist outside of my insurance system who diagnosed me, and I've seen an ENT guy who diagnosed me outside my system. So I had to go out of pocket a bunch of money. But they both, and they were older. The younger people, like they spend, and I like young people, the young doctors, they look at the screen almost as much as they're looking at you. And so they look for the major symptoms, and if you don't have the major symptoms, then you're not getting the major look over. Whereas this guy, he's older, he's seen it before. He puts a tongue depressor on me, and the first question he asks is, "Are you aware of how many spasms are going on in your face and in your mouth right now?" And I said, "No." And he goes, "Okay, then it's been going on for a while because you're not even aware of them anymore." And then he did the endoscopy and called another resident in, and they're like, "Oh yeah, the glottal is covering the larynx to try and get it from stop spasming." So bang, I'm diagnosed. But the treatment is a Botox injection in the vocal cords, which we joked about because my neck's going to look awesome. But it costs, like $5,000 if you don't have insurance. And while I have some savings, with the pandemic, I've sort of been living on them. And so I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole with that. So now I have an appointment at Ochsner with a guy who's turned me down in 2018 and 2019 to try and explain, look, these two other guys did diagnose it, and this injection could give me my singing career back. And I'm hoping he'll agree. I'm hoping it's not a doctor thing where they all try to be better than the other one. And he goes, well, he might have seen it, but I don't see it. And then I'm fucked because then I got to find $5,000 to go and get the guy that saw it to do something about it. But
Gotcha.
anyway,
So that's this weekend.
that's Monday is the appointment. So I know me, and I know that whatever I do this weekend will involve me obsessing about that. So there'll be like a lot of time spent playing chess with strangers online. You
There's a
know.
lot of, we might have to start up a Kickstarter for you if this guy
Yeah,
comes in.
there's definitely going to be a lot of Madden played this weekend because that's my total escape from reality. I get on the Madden game
Not
and I don't care
chess.
about. Well, chess, it's over quickly, and uh, to me, chess is a lot like music. Like when I'm playing guitar or piano, I can see it as chess moves. The moves have to make sense, especially on piano. It's very like playing chess. The moves have to make sense for it to come out properly, for you to
Right.
come out winner in chess, or for you to come out properly in the thing. So when I'm playing piano, I literally see chess moves.
That's kind of cool.
Um,
That's kind of neat.
but when I'm playing football, I just see football.
Well,
So
I went and tried a new chess site, right? A new chess app, just to see. And this particular chess app, no matter how poorly you play in your first game, it lets you win. So
which app are you playing?
what's that? It's chess.
Oh,
I found it on chess.com, but I got to
oh,
download for some
play
app.
each other on chess.com. I mean, I'm
Well,
on chess.com.
the funny part, like I said,
Only
they were trying to rank me. So no matter how, because I made some stupid moves. Like I
you
lost
have
my
to play.
queen in like five
Yeah,
moves, but it
yeah.
still let me win. Like it kept doing stuff. I wound up with five queens at the end of
Trying
that
to
game.
cheat. Yeah, you don't want to play the computer. First of all, what level are you at? You want to play a person, and then you're playing people who are ranked like you. So you get beat a little bit at first, but then you start to see, oh, that's some bitch to use that move. I know this move. And then you start figuring out the defenses, unless you want to be like my friend Justin Molisal, who went and read up on the defenses so you can come back and kick my ass.
Did he kick your
But
ass?
oh, he came back. He came back and kicked my ass. But then he got booted off of chess.com for cheating. And man, was he pissed.
How do you
He
cheat
calls me.
on?
He's like, I didn't cheat. I don't know what the fuck this is about. And he got reinstated, and they kicked him off again for cheating. And I was laughing my ass off, man. I'm like, yeah, buddy, I know you didn't cheat. It's cool.
How do you cheat a computer?
But then I ran into the writer. You know the writer Michael Tisserand?
Yeah.
He used to write for, so I ran into him, and he's a great guy, and he's got that book out, and was at the Bywater Bakery to see John Boutte sing right before the pandemic. Anyway, he says, "Oh, you play chess? I play on whatever his chess thing, Louisiana's chess website. We should meet for a game, and then you can meet other people and play." Well, we meet for a game, and he just destroys me 2 games in a row, and then he never mentions us playing again. Rightfully so. I'm not judging him for it. And then I tried to figure out how to negotiate that site, but it was way more complicated than chess.com, whereas you just say play game against player, and you're playing somebody in Scotland or whatever, So I never did figure out the Louisiana site, and the only time I played it, I got, spanked like a redheaded stepchild, so.
Yeah. No, I'm looking, and I tell you, like that first game that I played, I made some moves that were just like, oh my God. I mean, like they were so easy. Like, when I gave away my queen, I pulled out the bishop. I wound up giving away my bishop, and I thought I was safe, and I moved right to a spot where I'm like, oh, I can't believe I did that. I didn't see that. Oh my God. That's like,
No, you have to, the chess has got some simple principles. You have to control the center of the board. That's where your focus is, on controlling the center of the board.
right.
And you have to think, whenever a guy moves a piece, you have to go, he had a reason. Like you're lost in your own strategy. And so you're so excited that he didn't make a move that fucks with your strategy that you go ahead and make a move that plays right into his strategy.
Right. Because he's figured out what you're doing.
Well, he's also doing his own thing.
Right.
So like, he's not about what you're doing. He's
Right.
about what he's doing. So when he makes a move that you think, oh, good, this doesn't block me, you have to go, but why'd he make it? Where's that piece got potential to go? And then it might be if he makes one move, he's one move away from trapping your king in check with your rook, with the knight thing, which everybody hates.
What is the amount of moves? I mean, isn't it like for these guys, these chess guys, don't they have to be able to like calculate the calculations that go in their minds is just ridiculous, right?
Oh, yeah, it's incredible. Well, you watch Queen's Gambit,
Right.
They talk. Yeah, it's a very mathematical game, which it explains why I'm only mediocre at it, because I'm truly only mediocre at math.
Right. Reminds me of,
In high school, I had to take remedial math in my freshman year because I was that bad at math. And then I only got through math because in my sophomore year, I switched to Redemptress, which was back in my old neighborhood. Like my mom had moved us out to Kenner into government housing. So I did 8th grade and my freshman year out there, and it was miserable. And I went back to Redemptress. And so the teacher I had was Coach Thayard. And Coach Thayard was like in his 70s. He'd been teaching there for 50 years. And he only taught because you had to teach a couple of classes. He really wanted to coach baseball. He'd won championship after championship coaching baseball. And by now, it's the 70s, and he's in his 70s, and he didn't give a flying fuck, man. Coach Thayer would come in, he'd give you your homework assignment, and you'd take it home. And then the next day, you'd turn to the guy next to you, and you'd hand him your paper. And Coach Thayer would put the answers on the wall, and your neighbor would grade your paper and hand it back to you, and you would call out your grade. So you would hand it to your neighbor, and you'd say, "I'd like a B today." And he would give you enough answers to get a B. And like this was passed down from generations. I mean, people, he'd been teaching there so long, people were like, I'd be like, "Oh, I got to take Algebra 1, man. I'm never going to pass." No, man, it's going to be easy. This is how the arts class works. And all you had to do was basically stay awake. That was tough for me because it was numbers, and numbers put me to sleep, right? And I remember once, I'm sleeping, and I just hear his voice because he talked like this. He goes, "Hey, boy." And he threw an eraser, and he was a baseball pitcher. Bam, right in the side of the face. Woke my ass up, man.
I actually love the days when they used to be able to strike you in school.
Oh, no, I didn't. I went to, the nun, Sister Marie Thomas, not Sister Marie Thomas, but Sister whatever her name was with the baseball bat in lunch line was much feared. She was not a tiny nun. She was a nun of some sizable proportions. Some goodly amount of God's produce had gone into making her the nun she was. And when she swung that bat at your legs for stepping out of line, she meant it.
Now think about this. Now you were not a very good kid. Authority was a problem
No,
for you, but at
yes.
school, these people scared the shit out of you to where you did the right thing
No, no,
mostly.
no. They were hitting me and threatening me to. I got kicked out. I was terrible, Mikey. I was terrible.
So you got
I
kicked
got.
out anyway, even
I
though you
know
knew.
about the leg because she hit me with the bat because I would never stay in line. You know, my senior year, I was so out of control. I was such a bad attitude my senior year that I got kicked out of every one of my classes 2 weeks before graduation. And the vice principal, disciplinarian Arthur Schmidt, God bless him. I hope he had a good life. He called me to his office. He goes, "Look, Paul, all your teachers want you out. It's 2 weeks to graduation. If you will sit outside my office for the last 2 weeks of school, cause no trouble, and do not say even hello if you're by, we'll let you graduate."
Don't even tell me
The
hello.
last 2 weeks of school, man, I was just sitting outside Smith's office, just like, well, this is better than class.
Yeah, they used to have things called the I room. I remember when we went to school where, that was the thing. You were messing up in class, they sent you down to the in dimension room or interdimension. I don't know. Anyway, but you'd have to go down and sit with all the other bad kids.
I just like mischief better than I like doing the right thing. Like in my sophomore year, my friend Mario Cruz talked me into going out for the football team. Now, each of us weighed about 125 pounds soaking wet. We had no business stepping on a football field. But he talked me into it because we both like football. So we're getting knocked around pretty hard the first couple of games, and it wasn't fun. I think we got into one game down in Chalmette where the coach was like, "All right, Cruz, Sanchez, go in and kick off, and some guy hit me and I fell and I got to drink some Gatorade, so it was cool. So one day he says, "Let's skip out of practice." And that was fine by me. I didn't want to go and get beat up anymore, I'm just a scrawny little runt. So we skip out of practice, but we're so stupid. We stand in front of the school drinking Cokes and talking to girls as the team bus rolls by on their way to practice.
Right.
Now, we're not just that stupid. We're stupid enough to show up the next day for practice. Right? Haven't been seen by the bus, drinking Cokes and talking to girls, not being at practice. The coach doesn't bother with drills. He tells the team to line up in front of each of us single file and just come at us. So I remember I took the first couple of guys, okay, they hit me, and I took them. And then our running back, Gerald Haynes, who's a big, strong kid, he hit me so hard that I got knocked down, like I think I skidded on my butt. And then his cousin came at me. I was still getting up, and he hit me. He was a defensive lineman, and he hit me as I was getting up, and I just rolled over backwards in my full, uniform with the pads and everything. Rolled over backwards 3 times, and when I got up, I just kept walking back to school. I had to walk. I had to walk through the St. Thomas housing projects, and people were throwing shit at me. I didn't care, man. I kept my helmet on. I walked back. I took that shit off, and I never went on that field again. I knew football was for me to watch and not to play.
Nice. I do remember being in sixth grade and playing football and saying, football wasn't my thing. I did better at basketball when I got a little bit older, but yeah,
Oh,
some guy knocked the wind out of me, and that was it for me. I was like, I got up off the thing, and I'm like,
plenty.
I
Yeah.
didn't. This wasn't for me. Getting the wind knocked out of you is really a terrible, terrible, terrible thing. Oh my God.
I had to take boxing lessons once when I was a kid, and the first time they hit me in the face, I don't remember anything for 30 seconds afterwards. I remember the instructor was just like holding my arms going, "Calm down." I just remember somebody had punched me in the face and I was going to kill them. It was the stupidest sport I ever tried. Here, put these on and then we'll try and hit each other in the face. Okay, that sounds like fun. No, it's not.
It's not.
In fact, that taught me a lesson because I was in the Channel. It was a rough neighborhood. I was standing in front of Parrington's grocery store when I was about 7 or 8 years old, and my best friends from the neighborhood walk up and they go, "Hey, Clay Square, we're going for a rumble." I said, "A rumble? What's that?" And they said, "Well, we're going to go over there with some bricks and bicycle chains and baseball bats, and we're going to meet some kids from uptown and have some bricks and bicycle chains and baseball bats, and we're going to beat each other up." And I was like, "No, I don't want to do that." That doesn't sound like fun at all.
Right? My folks had gotten some of those boxing gloves. For some reason, I don't know. I think it was part of some sports pack back in the day or whatever like that, where you get a soccer ball and a baseball and whatever, bat and boxing gloves. So it always, that always turned into a huge fight, right? I mean, like you're boxing somebody, you're 10 years old, you hit somebody in the face, and the next thing you know, it's on, And so
yeah.
it was like, I think my folks got rid of the boxing gloves pretty quick when some of those things turned into full
My
on.
mom, she exchanged the boxing gloves for a punching bag because since I was the punching bag in the house, it was a good place for me to let out some rage,
Right.
And the punching bag lasted me 2 weeks until I hit it so hard I sent it through the garage window.
I was
Which
waiting for you
was
to say you broke your wrist.
But no, I sent it through the garage window. It came right off the pole and flying through the window, which I got my usual rebuke from my mother, which was, "Can't give you little bastards anything nice."
That's right. We can't have anything nice, you little suckers. I tried the bicycle thing when I was a kid, right? I broke both my hands doing bicycles.
Oh,
I
dude,
think
bicycles for me. I think we talked about this on the show once, but we were really poor. I mean, my mother and father, we had 11 children in the family, and he worked 2 jobs, did what he could. He was dead by the time I was 5, so my mom had nothing. So our bikes and most of our clothes came from my cousins, the Burkes. My uncle Dick was the assessor of the parish we lived in, or the Irish Channel area. My Aunt Weets worked at the Catholic school. They had a lot of kids, but they were well tended. They were taken care of. So we would get their bikes as hand-me-downs. And sometimes, they got handed down to my older brothers and sisters, and then they got handed down to me. There was a long line waiting for the hand-me-downs. And more often than not, I'd get a chick's bike.
Right.
So I didn't care, My friends all had these cool bikes with high handlebars and banana seats, and we're like 7 years old. We're riding through the neighborhood, and we're jumping driveways. Wow, we can jump over the driveway, catch some air. And I catch some air, and this bike that's been handed down like 5 times snaps in two. The handlebars, I'll never forget, the handlebars just kept going without me. They just went on without me, and the back with me on it just fell straight over. My friends were busting the gut laughing, nobody even cared that my bike broke in two, right? So we're so poor, I bring the fucking thing home, and my mother says, "Well, that's fine, son, we'll just get your Uncle Andrew to weld it back together." My Uncle Andrew was her younger brother, who was like a saint to our family. He was a bachelor till he was 40, so he didn't have a lot of financial responsibilities. He would come to us on Fridays when he got paid with giant cans of food from Schweigman's, vegetables and potatoes, whatever they sold that was in giant portions. He would fill up the cabinets for us. And he made things for us. So he welded the bike back together so I could have a bike. But
Nice. I was thinking about. I was
a week later, I jumped the curb, and the bike broke right back again, and the front sailed off, and the back fell down with me on it. And that was the end of that bike.
That was the end of that bike. I remember I had this
Oh
bike.
no, I know how that bike met its untimely demise. He welded it back together, but somehow the brakes didn't work anymore, and it wasn't a new bike. It didn't have handbrakes, so you had to sort of know that you had to slow down enough with your feet, essentially. And I was riding with my friend Mario at the schoolyard where we played at St. Alphonsus. And next to the nuns' convent was an asphalt parking lot that had those parking barriers that were on slants. And the object was to get as close to the parking barrier as you could without touching it. So for some reason, we had traded bikes. And his phrase was, "I go for action." So he was going to beat me. I'd come awful close. And I forgot to tell him that the bike didn't have brakes.
Oh, my God.
And so when he hit the brakes, the bike, I think, even sped up and went right into the parking barrier, which was a slant, which lifted it into a flight, and it flew into the fence, snapped in two. Just
Yeah, it didn't quite make that jump, huh?
but we were just stupid with.
Yeah, when I was 8, I had a bike. It was a Roadrunner, so I named it Meep because that was the only word that I knew Roadrunner could say. So me and Meep, we were buddies, I didn't have friends, but I had Meep. And it had a chain. I don't know if you remember, they had those chain guards. But mine was really, really loose, right? Loose chain guard. And it'd been that way forever. I didn't think nothing of it. Well, one day, man, I am racing down the street as fast as I can go. I am pedaling as hard. I'm seeing how fast we can get this guy going. And the chain fell in front of the pedal stopped, and I flipped over about 14 times.
Yeah.
I actually had triple vision for a day. double vision for about 3 days. So I had a horrible concussion. And I remember going to my friend's house. Somehow I talked him in to let me sleep over. I think maybe it was already planned. My folks had something going on. But I wound up spending the night by a friend's house with double vision, a place I don't know, walking around the place just trying to figure out, what's going on, where am I at, trying to watch TV and seeing a couple of TV. I remember that being a really weird, not to mention
Yeah.
on my head, I had knocks on my head and stuff. But I think I was probably in fourth or fifth grade. And
Yeah, I got hit by a cab in Chicago in 2006. I got doored
oh,
and landed on my head, and it was crazy, man. I was in shock, and my bike was in two pieces. And I remember the cab driver running up and going, "Hey, are you okay?" And I went, "Yeah, my bike's messed up, but I think I'm gonna walk to my hotel." I was just in shock, and some sweet young hippie kid grabbed me because I was insisting on leaving, and he grabbed me. He goes, "Look at your face, man. You're not going anywhere." And I was bleeding and dirty, and I passed out and threw up and all that kind of stuff, and wound up, with a concussion, the whole thing. So I had my bike moment eventually, but really there was like I got really good on bikes eventually. I could ride with no hands. I could do the whole thing. Motorized two-wheel vehicles did not suit me. My next door neighbor, Tony Castrillo, out in Kenner, when we moved out there and I was in eighth grade, his mom gave him a mini bike for his birthday. So Tony's scooting around the neighborhood, and it was barely developed, all these little government houses in this neighborhood on Kenner Street, a lot of empty lots. And so it was kind of free, you could ride. And after he rode it for a while, he was a generous neighbor, and he rides up to me and goes, "You want to take it for a spin, Paul?" Never been on a mini bike in my life, don't know anything about mini bikes. So I straddled the thing standing up, right? And I got my hands on the handlebars. I go, "Well, how does it work?" And he goes, "Well, you just twist that one on your left and it goes forward, and the other one's the brake." And I went this one, and I twisted it, and the bike did a wheelie. It took off from under me. And I'm chasing his bike down the street because every time it would start to come down, my hand would twist on the gas and it would go back up again. And there I am chasing. I'm still like 8 years old chasing a mini bike down the street. And when finally he's yelling at me, "Take your hand off the gas and hit the brake." And I did, and the thing slams down. And it's just like 2-day-old mini bike. And the back fender is just bent underneath the thing. You gotta go show his mom that the bike is completely destroyed in the back. Somehow he never asked me to ride it again after that.
I started thinking of reminds me of my buddy had a three-wheeler when we were young, and I think by the time I was in seventh grade, I had my legs that are as long as they are now. So I would ride on the back of the three-wheeler, but he was small, and so my legs would basically be out further than his knees, right? So we're riding along like this or whatever like that, and he hit some kind of bump, and my foot slipped off of the peg, went underneath the tire. So I just got pulled on. It didn't hurt me. It's one of those moments where this horrible thing happens. Meanwhile, he flipped over. It broke his collarbone. I was fine.
And laughing hysterically at the breaking of your friend's collarbone.
Well, it was funny because he was crying and screaming at me, so mad at me. He's like, "Well, how come you?" And I had to drive him back, and and he's like, every bump, he's like, "Ah!" And I'm like, "You were trying to knock me off, so this is what you get, you son of a bitch. You were trying to see if you could knock me off."
Okay, Mike, that's as good a story as any to end on.
Yes, and it is 10 o'clock, and I got to take my wife off. She's got an appointment this morning herself, so I got to run off and take her, do her
Give
thing.
her my love.
I'll definitely give her your love. And
good news.
well, real quick, before we go, look at this shot of Luis back again. Look at that kid. Isn't he? Wow. That is a great smiling shot.
That sure is. And so next week, our guest on Wednesday is going to be Frenchie.
I think so. Yes.
That's pretty incredible.
Yep. It should be Frenchie. So we'll get to see some of his new art. He's getting ready to open his gallery back up again now that we're coming out of the pandemic. And
nice.
Yeah, it ought to be a good time.
Talk to him. All right, and then I'll see you on Monday.
We'll see you on Monday. We're going to be here late Monday, right? You got your appointment on Monday.
Be a little late. I'm hoping that I go in and they look at me on time and I come home and do this on time. But I am really hopeful about getting my voice back. So when they said 8 o'clock Monday morning, I said yes. And
absolutely.
We'll show.
Absolutely. And so, guys, we'll show, just keep your eye out. You'll know when we go live because it'll send you a little thing.
Well, I'm at the doctor's office at 8:30. I'll put it on Facebook that I might be running a few minutes late.
All good. All good. So, by the way, did you notice earlier, I think you weren't looking at the screen, but Shmoo says you have to write her song before you can write the one about the the heavenly creature.
I did not know Shmoo was a ghost.
She says her song first. She says it's great, but her song first.
That's so Shmoo-like.
Yes, of course.
If you knew Shmoo, you'd know that is her mantra.
Yes, we'll see you Monday, Sandy. Thank you so much. And
All right, bye.
here we go. Bye, guys.
Well, I used to keep my money in a cookie jar. It was shaped like a cat, it was a present from my brother. I read a lot of books, but I couldn't see between the lines. I'll have another cup of coffee if you don't mind. Well, her hair is as black as an alleyway, and it used to be red, and it used to be blonde. Truth is, her hair changes color all the time. I'll have another cup of coffee if you don't mind. I'll have another cup of coffee if you don't mind. Well, I'm staring at her shoulder, but it's not what I see when I hear two fellas fighting in the booth across from me. So I wipe away